You may have seen a portrait of the Duchess of Tyrol, Margareta Moultash, or as she was portrayed by medieval artists, in many sources. An ugly woman with ugly facial features could scare away anyone. But do you know what was behind the painting of this portrait? Why the Duchess paid the price for her beauty? This is the channel of learning the world. Let's go. Margaret was born in 1318. The girl was born into the family of the Tyrolean Count Heinrich of Chorutin. Her father was also the King of Bohemia and the Duke of Crane. Margaret was married off early. At the age of 11, she became the wife of the representative of the Luxembourg dynasty, young Johann Heinrich. 5 years later, when Marguerite was barely 16, her father died. It was necessary to fulfill the terms of the treaty concluded earlier between the rulers of the Tyrolean dynasty and Austria, who represented the Habsburg dynasty. According to the treaty, if the Tyrolean male line ceased to exist, the Tyrolean lands would come under Habsburg rule. No sooner had Margaret recovered from the loss of her father than her greedy neighbors began to divide her ancestral lands. Margaret persuaded the Tyrolean nobility not to give up her lands, but to restore her to the throne. The aristocracy led the people in revolt and wrested the lands from the invaders. Thanks to the political talents, persistence and diplomacy of the young Countess Margaret, in 1335 Tyrol again became an independent state. All this difficult time for her country, Margaret was married to Johann Heinrich. He was 4 years her junior and was clearly not interested in the affairs of his wife. All the time her husband spent at feasts, hunting and in the company of other women. Unable to bear the disgrace any longer, in the summer of 1341, Margaret banishes her husband and, with the support of the nobles, the marriage is declared null and void. Johann, as the son of the King of Bohemia, appeals to the Pope for help. Pope Clement IV, in an orderly tone, demanded that the woman cease her improper behavior and return her husband home. But they never let Johannes into the family castle, closing the gates in front of him. In retaliation, Margaret married another Ludwig, Duke of Bavaria and a political opponent of the Pope. From that moment on, the Catholic Church began to persecute Margaret herself and her family. The Catholic Church coined the nickname Moultash, which means big lip, for Marguerite. The nickname alludes to the woman's promiscuous behavior. Toward old age, Margaret is left all alone. In 1361 Margaret's husband dies, followed 3 years later by his son Meinhard III. Now Austria no longer hesitates to press the Duchess and demand her lands. Countess Margaret bowed to this pressure and ceded her lands to Austria. Margaret dies in Vienna, because the treaty on the transfer of lands forbids her to appear in her native land. The ugly portrait with the ugly woman was painted 150 years after the death of the Duchess. Her descriptions are preserved from the words of the Austrians and Bavarians of the time, who were greatly influenced by the church. It was the churchmen who instilled in the people that Margaret was an ugly woman. At the same time, her contemporary Johann von Winterthur noted that she was quite a beautiful woman. So the description of her as a monster is most likely the machinations of her enemies. It is possible that over time, the erroneous stereotype that has developed around the name of Maria Moultash will be destroyed, because historians have no real data to call this woman ugly or even just plain ugly. To date, no official portraits of Marguerite have survived. There is only her personal seal, which depicts a tall, slender woman. That's all for today. If you liked the video, please like it and do not forget to subscribe. Bye everyone.